this is Konganaya outside of Demico, the western pavement of Demico. And they are, of course, performing some cultural tunes Saturday morning.
To this evening's edition of Politics 101 as we move closer to Christmas. Christmas this year falls on a weekend, so we get to do as many shows as we can on the days before Christmas. But, tomorrow and then the next day is Christmas Eve and so on. But we've got business to carry on with, even as we prepare for Christmas. I've been trying to do some little shopping myself to prepare my little pepper pot and all the other little goodies. And my God, the prices of meat. I see beef as $800 a pound and all of that stuff. Pork, of course, has gone up. The prices are really high. So it's that kind of Christmas that's going to be quite expensive. As we've been saying on this program, you don't have much, so spend wisely. Try to do as much as you can to spend your money wisely. Spend your money in your community. Try as much as possible to patronize community entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs, regardless of race and ethnicity. Try and, let your money circulate among poor people. Let your money circulate in your community. I know that there are some things that we cannot avoid buying from the big stores, but the little money that you have, try and spend it wisely. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to the Thursday edition of Politics 101. We are going to be talking about a few things tonight. There have been some developments over the last 24 hours. We want to zero in on those developments. Of course, we are in the week after the election of Aubrey Norton as leader of the PNC, coming off of that Congress on the weekend. And there is a lot happening. So we'll try as much as possible to get in discussion tonight and take a few of your calls towards the end of the program. So Aubrey Norton has been elected leader of the PNC, and the Americans, the British, other political parties, organizations are welcoming the election of Mr. Norton. And every organization seems to be expressing their view of how they think Norton should proceed as leader of the PNC. That is to be understood. After all, he has been elected as leader of one of the two largest parties in our country. Notably, the Private Sector Commission, Aubrey had said that the Private Sector Commission is politically biased. We know the role played by the Private Sector Commission last year during the elections, being sort of the pit bull, if you will, for the PPP. And that Norton said that while his party, under his leadership, would be pro-business, they want to warn that the Private Sector Commission is politically biased. The private sector fired back, saying that Norton is wrong. They're not politically biased. They were defending democracy last year. And that thing about defending democracy, what in Guyana, democracy has a different meaning depending on which organization you talk to, which political operative you talk to, what democracy they were defending last year. If democracy means everyone must participate in making decisions that affect them, then Guyana is not a democracy. Guyana has been aspiring to be a democracy. Guyana has its problems with democracy and so forth. And we live in an ethnically plural society. And in ethnically plural societies, then democracy takes on a different meaning, because the majoritarian democracy in some of the homogeneous societies in the world is not the kind of democracy that works well in ethnically divided society. Because what a majoritarian democracy means in an ethnically divided society is that ethnic group that has a majority or has a plurality wins and then governs in a way that satisfies the interests of its ethnic group. So the majoritarian democracy that we talk about, one has to question the utility of that majoritarian democracy in a society like ours. But let's get back to the reactions to Aubrey Norton. We have not heard the PPP officially yet say anything about Norton's election, but we know that the PPP did not want Aubrey Norton to be elected, that they would have preferred another candidate, largely because what drove Norton's election and that is the fear among PNC supporters and African Guyanese in general that there was not the kind of leadership in the last year and a half coming from the PNC that defended them against the obvious ethnic attack from the PPP. For all intents and purposes, all of the PPP's policies have in the final analysis, all of them, in the final analysis, had ethnic consequences or ethnic implications or so. And so African Guyanese obviously felt and feel that they're under attack from the PPP. And so therefore they wanted a leader who would stand up to them. And I think that was the major reason that Aubrey Norton was elected. He was elected largely to provide the kind of leadership that would respond and retaliate against the advantage taken by the PPP. That is very clear. And so the PPP didn't want Aubrey Norton to be elected. The fact of the matter is that the man is elected. The man was elected with 82% of the votes, and the slate that he fielded did very well. And so one cannot say that he doesn't have a mandate. However, the PPP has chosen, instead of welcoming Mr. Norton, they have decided that they will go on the attack against Norton. Now, remember, before Mr. Norton was elected, the de facto leader of the party was Mr. Harman, the leader of the opposition. And the PPP attitude to Mr. Harman was that they were not going to cooperate with Harman. The president refused to meet with Mr. Harman on the grounds that Mr. Harman did not accept the PPP or recognize the PPP. And they've gone over that on this program and other programs over and over and over, in the sense that there is nothing in our constitution that says that the opposition leader has to recognize the government before the government meets with the opposition leader to carry out their joint constitutional functions. So they had a certain attitude to Mr. Harman. But I suppose the fact that under Mr. Harman, there was not a kind of aggressive action on the part of Harman for whatever reasons. And so the PPP while they did not recognize Harman and try to meet with him, they may have been comfortable with the Harman government. Now, Aubrey Norton has been elected. What is the PPP's attitude? As I said, I've not seen any statement yet from the PPP welcoming Norton's election. What we have seen from the PPP are hints that they've already labeled Norton and they're going to have a certain attitude to him. And the attitude to him would be one of non-cooperation. They have already started to demonize Norton. We have seen some videos circulating from the PPP that seeks to put or paint Mr. Norton in a certain position. And it gives you a sense of how the PPP is going to respond. And it gives you a sense of what is the disposition of the PPP. And so we're going to play one of the videos that they are circulating, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
The PNCAPNU plus AFC is relentless in its campaign of terror and intimidation. GCAM chairwoman Claudette Singh is its latest target. Aubrey Norton recently made this threat against her.
She was trusted with a job to operate independently. She has failed. And when people fail, we must do everything to see their backs.
Norton's threat isn't an isolated incident.
In whatever way you can undermine this government.
Orbeez Bridge. Nobody ain't blocked that bridge yet.
If the people don't know, just come and come down. Come down! Come down!
Norton was one of the intellectual authors of the PNC More Fire, Slow Fire campaign of arson and terror in 1997. Despite attempts to repackage himself, Aubrey Norton has not changed.
Welcome back to Politics 101. Well, there you have it. That's how the PPP is welcoming Norton. First of all, they're linking Norton to people like myself and Mark Benshop and Rickford Burke. Their relentless attack on us for holding the fourth ear on these programs against them and exposing their wicked and dictatorial form of government. They have never forgiven us for that. They have tried to jail us, putting out a wanted bulletin for Norton and accusing others of us of trying to overthrow their government. And so they're linking Norton to those of us they refer to as extremists. And then they're saying Norton was responsible for mayhem and terror in 1997 and 1998 during that protest against what the PNC saw was an illegal imposition of the PPP after the 1997 election. Now, this is what they're up to. This is what they're up to. They're beginning to drive fear among their supporters that the election of Aubrey Norton means that Indian Guyanese would be at risk. You know, every time we open our mouths on programs like these to talk about the PPP's governorship and their governance, they have accused us. They have accused us of fomenting racism and inciting racial aggression against East Indians. Nothing of the sort. As you know on this program, while I have always come to the protection and the defense of African Guyanese, I have never, ever advocated for attacks on Indian Guyanese. In fact, I've made it very clear that our anti-Indian violence is not an option. Anti-Black violence is also not an option. We have said that. Yet, in their quest to instill fear among Indian Guyanese, they give the impression that we are out to attack Indian Guyanese. And so here is what they are welcoming Aubrey Norton with. To tell Indians that Norton's election means violence. Means violence. Now this is the government that is calling itself democratic. What is democratic about a leader of an opposite party representing a large section of the population being elected, and instead of welcoming him, you are instilling fear among your supporters? They like to talk about the ERC. Shouldn't that go before the ERC? What has Norton said that gives the impression that he is going to unleash terror on Indian Guyanese? Nothing. But yet they want to put us in that prison so as to excite fear among their supporters. First of all, it's a disrespect for Indian Guyanese supporters. And this is what Amanza Walton DC was getting at when she was pointing to the fact that supporters of political parties should not be so gullible that they would allow the party to think for them. And that is the message I want to send here tonight to our Indian Guyanese brothers and sisters. I have no problems with Indian Guyanese voting for the PPP. That's their choice. I do not have any problem if they vote for the PPP for racial reasons. That's their choice. I hear other commentators say people should not vote race. I think it's nonsense. In a society where people have racial fears and racial insecurity, one has to understand that they will vote race. That is, they will equate their interests with a political party. So I don't have any problems if East Indian people vote for the PPP. What I do have a problem with is when you allow the PPP to think for you. That is what I have a problem with. I have remarked on so many occasions that during the period of the coalition, when I was critical of the coalition for some of the wrongs that I perceived that it did, Indian Guyanese loved me. I was the best African. What a wonderful person is this fellow David Hines. I was all over the Kaieteur News and the Stabroek News, and sometimes the Guyana Times. But the minute David Hines said at the 2020 election that despite my problems with the coalition, I am supporting the coalition, and that I'm urging Guyanese to vote for the coalition. And I give my reasons. I gave my reasons. During the 5 months impasse, I refused to jump on the bandwagon charging Mr. Mingo and others with rigging elections. My argument was that elections in Guyana are always rigged. And I want to wait and see the big picture before I made a determination. And of course, I saw the big picture. There was a recount. And the recount clearly showed that there were anomalies, they call them, but there was a lot of rigging, beginning with the voters list, coming through to election day. And so that big picture said to me that it was not one side rigging the election, but that the election itself was generally rigged. And so therefore I took the position that the elections were inconclusive, that neither the coalition nor the PPP could claim to win an election that was so badly rigged. The evidence is there. And because I supported the coalition and because I refused to say that the PPP won a democratic election and that nonsense, I've become the enemy of the PPP and by extension the enemy of their supporters who are mostly Indo-Guyanese. The very people who were cheering me on and telling me how wonderful I was when I was critical of the coalition. Now that I refuse to join the PPP's bandwagon and I'm critical of their government, those same people are saying that I'm a terrorist, I'm a racist, and I should be jailed and killed and all kinds of things. That is the nature of our politics. That is the nature of our politics. If tomorrow I decide I will be one of those stupid people, and I go to Jagdio or Fanali and say, I'm ready to cross the floor and to go over to the PPP and to denounce the coalition, those very Indians who are calling me racist today will say I'm the greatest thing on earth. That is the fallacy, the nonsense that passes for political support. And that is what Amanza was talking about. That supporters are not driven by how they feel and what they see. They're driven by what the party tells them to do. They leave their brains aside and let the party think for them. The PPP leaders, when they meet me privately, they greet me quite nicely. David, how are you doing? How are you? They don't say racist, how are you doing? Because they know damn well I'm not a racist. But they're prepared to encourage their supporters to say that people like me are racist. Because that is the way to control their supporters. That is what Sister Manzo was saying. And they say she should go before the ERC and all that nonsense. So here is Aubrey Norton, elected as the leader. Whether the PPP likes it or not, they have to contend with Norton. They have to deal with him. When Orphan is ready to sit down with the leader of the PNC, it has to be Aubrey Norton. But they're prejudicing their supporters. Prejudicing their supporters by painting this man as a racist and a terrorist who is going to bring violence against East Indians. This is the party and the government that we are dealing with. This is the party and the government that wants us to think that they're democratic. Democracy means fair play. Democracy means justice. Democracy means equality. Democracy means equity. Where is the equality under the PPP? Where is the equity? Where is the fair play? Where is the justice? I cannot call a government democratic because a few people say that this government was democratically elected, although you had hundreds of people, thousands of people who voted when they're sitting in New York. When 47 boxes, there were no statutory documents. When dead people were voting, and we can go on and on and on. How can I refer to such a government as a lawfully, democratically elected government? No. That will be giving the wrong impression about the meaning of democracy. So, sisters and brothers, let's saddle up, because these people do not intend to come to the table and for us to sit down as equals in our country and try to come to a political solution. I don't mind people disagreeing with me, and I don't mind if people are disagreeing with Aubrey Norton. Of course, nothing is wrong with that. But to paint political leaders on our side in a certain way is to send a message to your community, and you're playing into stereotypes. We know the Americans call it dog whistle. They're playing into stereotypes. The angry black man. David Hines is angry. Aubrey Norton is angry. Mark Bishop is angry. Rick Forbert is angry. That's what they're trying to say to Indian people in that video. And these angry men are going to unleash violence because black people are violent people. They're not people driven by reason. They're emotional people who are violent. That is a stereotype about black people here in Guyana and all over the world. And that's what the PPP is doing in that video. They are playing into the stereotype that they know exists among the population. And then they turn around and call other people racist. We are not racist. We have to defend ourselves against racism. We've been doing that from the cradle to the grave. Once you're born black, you have to defend yourself against stereotypes of blackness. And then people turn around and call you racist. When they are playing not the race card. A card is too small to describe what they're doing. They are playing the race horse. They are playing the race horse. Now you have to go and sit down with Norton, presumably to talk about a political solution, to talk about defending our country against global sharks who are coming for our oil. And that is how you are presenting the man to your constituency. So your constituency has a right to tell you, do not sit down with racists, do not sit down with terrorists. So you are setting the stage for non-cooperation with Aubrey Norton. Sisters and brothers, I am merely doing as I've always tried to do on this program and off this program to explain, to go beyond and beneath and behind the pictures that they're showing you, and to tell you what the plan is. So we have to brace ourselves. We have to brace ourselves. It's no accident that they have chosen Mark Benchop, Rickford Burke, David Hines, and to put Aubrey Norton with us there. If you notice, they drop Sherrod now. They drop Sherrod. And there's a reason why they drop Sherrod. There is a reason. So, we have it. Now, let me go on to talk about the next thing. Dharam Lal. Minister, I think, of local government. I don't know the boy or man or whoever he is. I don't know most of them. I've never met him. But I woke up one morning and in my inbox from this Dharam Lal person was that stupid video about black pudding that they circulated. I don't know if Dharam Lal made it, but Dharam Lal sent it to my inbox. I responded to Mr. Dharam Lal. I said, good morning, Mr. Minister. I am glad you took time out to listen to me. But I would be glad if you played my entire program to your audience so they can see what I said and not the little piece you cut out and stitched together to give a certain impression. He answered, okay. Then last night, as we were on this program, Village Voice broke the news. Nigel Dharam Lal has said that the two judges from the appeal court that yesterday ruled that the appeal court has jurisdiction to hear the appeal of Chief Justice decision to throw the petition, one of the petitions from the coalition. She threw it out on technicality, as you remember, Mr. Granger didn't sign on time. And the coalition appeal, but first of all, the court had to decide whether they can hear the case. Because the PPP argued that on election matters, the High Court is the final court. So the first question was whether the appeal court could hear the case. And the appeal court took that matter up, and in a decision of 2-1, Don Gregory and Acting Chancellor Cummins ruled or voted that the court did have jurisdiction to hear the case. And one other judge, Mr. Rishi, Judge Rishi, I think Singh is his last name, I may be wrong, Prasad, but Judge Rishi, he was a dissenting vote. But the majority of the court, 2-1. This Dharam Lal boy then lashed out that the two judges should be removed from the court, that they should be defrocked, that they were the same two judges who ruled that 34 is the majority in a 35 on a 65 seat thing, and he went on attacking the court. No, I do not have any problem with people disagreeing with the court and expressing their disagreement. They've done it on this program. You have done it in the audience. But whenever I've had lawyers on this program, and I myself, we have always said to you, you can criticize the decision, but do not disrespect the members of the court. Do not disrespect the court. And there was a reason that we were telling you all not to do that. Because when these people like Darren Lal, they come and disrespect the court, we want to be in a strong position to rebuke them. And that is why we have always said to you all, disagree with the ruling. Don't attack the Chief Justice. Don't attack the officers of the court. We have always on this program said that we don't want to develop bad habits among our followers. And there is a reason, like I said, that I took that position. And as I said, the reason was that I know that those people over there, the people, have no respect for the court. So long as the court is ruling in their favor, they will go along. As soon as the court don't rule in their favor, they will attack the members of the court. I didn't want you all to be in the same boat with Darren Lal. So those of you who disagreed with me when I was saying, do not attack Chief Justice Belcher, Roxanne George, do not attack her. You can disagree with our decisions. You now understand why I was saying that. Because I knew it was only a time before the PPP people began to attack the person of people in the court. And they signaled which court they was unhappy with. That they were not happy with the Court of Appeal. We saw two academics from the UWI attacked the Court of Appeal, saying that the Court of Appeal is biased. And you remember we had lawyers on who said there was something suspicious about that. That the PPP wanted to target the court. And they were using these, the conclusions of these academics to consolidate their attack on the court. They don't want to make Justice Cummings the chancellor. And they're trying to whip up this thing that she is an opposition supporter. It's one of the reasons I was telling you all, don't get into that business of saying Roxanne George is PPP. Because I know what the other side was planning. So now, the thing has come out into the open. A government minister attacks two justices because they did not rule in favor of his party. That rule in favor of his party. And calling for them to be defrocked. Let me say this. Darren Lal knows that you don't remove justices because they make a ruling you don't like. He knows that's not going to happen. And so the intention is not to remove the judges. What he intends with that call is to incite hatred against the judges. He knows the judges can be removed, but he is now inciting hatred against the judges. He's not inciting against the judge that ruled in the way the PPP like. He's inciting against these two black female judges. So there we go again. The subtext. Remove the judges, defrog them. That's the text. He knows that can't happen. So the subtext is to incite hatred against these judges, saying that they're political judges, they're partisan judges. Just as how they say Aubrey Norton, David Hines, and Mark Bishop and so on, we are partisan and they're inciting hatred against us. That is what Dharam Lal is doing here. Let's lay it bare. The Bar Association has come out and said it's wrong. Other political parties and organizations have come out and said it's wrong. I've seen some nonsense that people have written and say, oh, Dharam Lal is just exercising free speech my head. What Dharam Lal and the PPP are doing is they are seeking to deny the rest of us our right to dissent. That any dissent against the government, when it's done by the courts, or by David Hines and Mark Bishop and others, or by the opposition political parties, or by you, the audience, any opposition is seen as hostility to their government and aimed at overthrowing their government and should be silent. So the attack on the two justices is merely an extension on the attack on Richard Burke and the rest of us, and to deny us the right to dissent. So any disagreement with the PPP is interpreted as aimed at bringing down the government and should be flushed out, knocked out, beaten out. That is their intention. So even the court now is not immune from the PPP's intention to snuff out dissent in Guyana. So don't give me that free speech nonsense. Don't tell me, oh, this is just a misguided statement by a little boy you don't know better. I don't buy that. These fellas know exactly what they're doing. This is not a misguided statement. Only a couple of weeks ago, another little boy make a misguided statement. Another little boy seek to use stereotypes about black people, about black fathers, to tell black people that they are going to create fathers for our children. Misguided statement, no. Ramsey yesterday, today Dharam Lal, tomorrow you're going to be one of them little girls and another little boy. They know what they're doing. You see, part of the job of being a minister, it seems, under the PPP government, is not to look after your ministry, but to be pit bulls. What Dharam Lal did yesterday is consistent with a PPP form of governance. That is, they want to dominate our country, and any organization, any institution, any individual that disagrees with them will become an enemy of the state. So now those two judges have become enemies of the state. They should be dismissed. They should be defrocked. They tell Damalal take out some parts of the statement, dismiss and defrocked and so on. To fool who? To fool who? I hope they're not fooling you all. Until the PPP comes out. And rejects in word and in spirit what Dharam Lal says, and censor him. You know, I don't like to call for ministers dismissal and remove, because that is not going to happen. But unless the PPP censures him in one way or the other, unless they reject what he has said, we have to hold the PPP responsible for what he said. I'm arguing he's not a one-man army. I'm arguing that Ramson, when he spoke his nonsense, he was not acting as a one-man army. These guys are carrying out the wishes of their political party and their government. And here is a man who is not an ordinary citizen. I try to advise you all ordinary citizens not to do it. But one, if ordinary citizens attack officers of the court, we may give and take. But this man is a member of the executive branch. He comes and he speaks with the power of the government behind him. Institutional power. And here is a member of one branch attacking officers of the other branch. There are three branches of government. The executive branch, which we call the government, the judicial branch, which we call the courts, and the legislative branch, which we call the parliament or the National Assembly. There are three co-equal branches of government. Here is a member of one branch, the executive, attacking two members of the other branch. The PPP has moved further than just attacking opposition members and supporters. They are now attacking a co-equal branch of government, which did not give a decision that they like. The judicial branch is the branch of government under something called judicial review that reviews the action of the legislature or the action of the executive to determine whether those actions are consistent with the Constitution or not. So our judicial branch, like the judicial branch of any country, has an important role to play. They are the arbiters of what is constitutional or not constitutional. Have courts made mistakes? Yes. Have our courts in Guyana made mistakes? Yes. Have them been criticized? Yes. But here is a member of one branch, the executive branch, trying to delegitimize a section of the other branch. It's one branch trying to undermine another branch, which says that the PPP wants to govern without oversight from the other branches of government. It's not going to attack the parliament, the National Assembly, because they have a majority there. But they perceive that the appeal court is not going to be at their beck and call. And listen, Darren Lal, we are going to the CCJ to correct these two ladies. And note what the academic said, that the CCJ has to always correct our appeal court. What they're in fact saying is that the CCJ is their court. This is what Darren Lal is saying. The CCJ is the PPP court. And I hope people from the CCJ or associated with the CCJ are paying attention of the way in which the PPP is trying to politicize the judicial system. The academics accuse the coalition of using the courts to settle political issues. What is Darren Lal doing here now? He's calling on the CCJ to correct what he says is a political decision by the appeal court. We're up against it, sisters and brothers. We're up against it. It is clear where these people are going. Very clear. Very clear. This is not an easy struggle. That is why we have to keep at it every day. Every day. An attack on the two justices is an attack in the final analysis on the very foundations of our legal system. And this attack is not coming from some little boy in the corner of some street in Georgetown. It's coming from a minister of government. And I want our Indian brothers and sisters to begin to take note of what is happening in their name. And to ask whether that is what they voted for. I'm asking Indian people to left the PPP. All I'm doing is asking our Indian brethren whether they are proud that the PPP is behaving in this manner in their name. In their name. It is a pathology of power, dictatorial power. The only legitimate source of wisdom is such a political structure. Is the dictatorship. For such a political structure is the dictatorship. The superstructure of the society is dictatorial. The executive is a dictator. They exercise no freedom. They exercise dictatorial license. Nothing more, nothing less. The earlier we recognize that, the earlier we would be better able to craft the most appropriate and effective response to these abuses and the defilement of the term democracy. This is for my brother Lawrence, and I keep forgetting that I've got to get Lawrence Houston, who is an old, long-serving diplomat with a very good political mind. We have sparred over the years, and I've got to get him on to the panels here as one of our commentators. That section I read there just now comes from him. The term democracy. That's what they're doing. They're using the term democracy to make us, to insult us. So democracy means God. And we have the hold on democracy. So we have the hold on God. The rest of y'all are devils. If democracy is God, and we are saying that the rest of y'all don't believe in democracy, then the rest of y'all are devils. You all have to understand the play of words. You see, that's why they don't want people like myself and Mark and others. They don't want us to talk. Because we bring us here together every evening to text the scarf, as we used to say, off we eye so that we can see clearly. I can see clearly now. The rain is falling. The old timers know that song. What we are doing is helping ourselves to see clearly.
this is Konganaya outside of Demico, the western pavement of Demico. And they are, of course, performing some cultural tunes Saturday morning. Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, neighbor, morning. I don't want you to call even morning. Welcome to another program of BUXTONIAN Morning Time. It is now 7 hours 16 on the 23rd day of December, and the year is 2021. So all those of you who are Rip Van Winkles, wake up! Wake up, everybody! No more sleeping in bed. Wake up and smell the roses. It's Thursday. Ordinarily, we would have had former Minister of Finance Vincent Johnny in the house, but we know that he's resting and recuperating. Resting and recuperating. And so, let us continue to encourage him, and let us continue to keep him in our prayers as he recuperates. But let us not lose sight of some of the wisdom he has imparted on Thursdays like these, Thursday mornings like these. Today is the eve of Christmas Eve. Yeah, the day before Christmas Eve. Leading up to today, right up to yesterday, for the last 2 weeks or so, the city blossomed. The city blossomed. The streets were filled with people and vehicles. It means that business was thriving. Yeah, business was thriving. A lot of our people who we assume do not have or did not have or generally claim they don't have, found. They found. And they're out and about shopping through. But they say, blessed is the man who knows to carry his December salary, or January will be trials and tribulation for him. Some people say that March is the hardest month. You usually hear people say that. Because based on getting paid early December, January, February, March appears to have 40 or 45 days. because of that span you have to wait for your next salary. But blessed is the man who knows to care his December salary, otherwise January will be trials and tribulation. And a lot of us are exposing ourselves to what I want to call the uncertainties of January. Because we're caught up in the Christmas spirit. We want to show our neighbor that we could have brighter homes than they can. We can have more fairy lights than they can. Our fairy lights are prettier than yours. Our curtains are more expensive than yours. And so the competition is on. How I wish, I sincerely wish, that we could be as competitive as that all year round. All year round. To not only improve our quality of life and livelihood and those of our children, but also to send a strong message to the cabal which controls this nation's resources and distributes it in a discriminatory manner. Oh, I wish we could be as competitive as that, in that every neighbor competes with the other to find his or herself on the picket line. Hey, my family had more people on the picket line than yours. Hey, my family boycotted more businesses which are enabling the PPP than yours. Hello? My family support more local producers in the community than yours. That's the kind of competition I would like to see among us. That's the kind of competition I would like to see among us. Hello? My family is contributing more to community development by their activism than yours. Let's have that kind of competition. And then we can all big up our chest and walk proudly around and say, we have done it. It might sound as though I'm living in utopia. I'm telling you to do something difficult. Well, every time I think about this and I talk about it, I like to remember a man who I considered a friend, Pandit Prasad from Newton Kitty. He and I used to have some deep conversations, if I can call it that. And one of the things he said to me, and it always stood out, he said, y'all don't worry with her. Unity and love thing that a lot of people say the Indians have for each other. He said Indians can be the most selfish people. Indians can be the most selfish people. And their selfishness is what drives the development of their communities and the growth of their families. Sounds like craziness. How a group of selfish people can develop their communities? Well, here is a rationale. It is my understanding that the Hindus believe the more money you have, the richer you get, the closer you are to God. They also believe that there is an afterlife, in that there is reincarnation. And when you die, the stature which you have achieved, that is where you will restart in a new life. You understand that philosophy? The richer you are, the closer you are to God. And when you die, you will come back and you will begin from where you left off. Do you understand that philosophy? So that is why, let's put something in perspective. That is why it's easy. That is why you find a lot of suicide among Hindus. It's easy. Because when they're dead, they're going to come back. And that is why you find the greed among them, the grabbing. Right? The grabbing. The quest for enrichment because, hey, I got to get super rich. I got to get super rich before I die. But when I die, I will come back and I will restart my life as a super rich person. And so they grab because of this belief, this concept. And when they come under pressure, they take their lives because they tell themselves, we're coming back. So suicide is almost cultural. It's almost part of the belief. Right? It's almost part of the belief system of Hindus. And so, staying on point with the selfishness that the Pandit told me about, he said as a result of this selfishness, what you find happening in Indian communities is that every family strives to outdo the other family. And so when the neighbor to the east builds a 10-foot concrete fence, the neighbor to the west builds a 12-foot concrete fence and tiles it. To show that his family is in a better position than the neighbor to the east. And that competition, as unhealthy as it is, goes on. And so when one neighbor buys a 192 for the family, the other one goes out and he looks for a primo. Unhealthy competition. But competition nevertheless. And so when one builds a 600 square foot home, let's say, the other one tries for a 1200 square foot home. They always try to outdo each other because my family is better than yours. And I want to reach closer to God faster than you. And that competition goes on. And in the midst of that competition, murder also takes place. And enmity exists. You all think black people are this bad? Check in Indian communities. Right? Check in Indian communities. All the neighbors around a block, this one cussing the one down, and in many instances, they cussing for piece of land. They're cussing because you shall hang over my fence. They're cussing because you, daughter, believe that she looks better than the Oh my God. Seriously, look in your Guyanese communities and you will find that kind of behavior existing. But when you look at the community from outside, you see it nice and flourishing. But when you get inside and you examine the relationships, and you get an understanding of the culture, then you will recognize it's not necessarily unity. It's not necessarily unity. It's competitiveness. And so because the richer you are, the closer you are to God, I have to acquire more riches and store it up. And so when I die, I expect to come back and start at that level. But in reality, one of the other things which happen, maybe coincidentally, is that my next generations are set. My next generation gets control of that wealth. And they are trying to improve and increase on that wealth because they too are considering, when I die, I want to be closest to God. Right? And so they create intergenerational wealth based on this belief. Right? But hop across to the Afro-Guyanese communities, the descendants of enslaved Africans, and their belief concept is different. Their belief concept has been fashioned by the Bible. The Bible says what? Store up your wealth in heaven. The Bible tells you that your wealth is in heaven. Don't concern yourself with worldly things. Right? It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And so everybody wants to go to heaven. Right? Everybody wants to go to heaven. Excuse me. And so, the opposite of what the Indians are doing is what black people are doing. Right? That's what black people are doing. They're storing up. Right? We ain't going after wealth because it will put us closer to God. As a matter of fact, the more wealth we get, the more sinful we become, according to some teachings. Of course, the pastors will tell you that, but they will also tell you your pastor gotta live good. Right? That's an aside. But I'm encouraging. Our competition doesn't have to be unhealthy. It can be healthy. But we have to have a similar determination to build on what we have, to build empires, to dig ourselves out of the rut that we're in. Because the other people are not interested in digging us out. They're not even interested in digging their own out. What they're interested in is securing themselves. And how do you secure yourself? The wise prince. Those of you who like reading, Machiavelli, the wise prince, and I understand that was a guiding factor in the behavior of the late Janet Jagan. There are lots of things the wise prince will do, but everything that the wise prince does is to secure himself. And so the wise prince will give, will entice, will sweeten you, but give you just enough to keep you coming. Give you just enough to make you dependent. And so you see yourself you come to a point where you believe, I have to do everything that is humanly possible to maintain the status quo of the wise prince. That's what the devotees, the followers, the defenders, the enablers conclude. That my existence, my good life, is so much dependent on the wise prince that I will have to do everything to keep the wise prince in that position where he is. And so when you see the elements of the PPP going to communities and carrying bags of ration, it is not because they care about poor people and they care about their supporters. It is because they recognize that this is what we need to do to keep our supporters in our camp. You give them, they will always look forward to getting. And they will come to the conclusion that unless you are there, they can't get. And so they will do anything to keep you there. And so they make you dependent. That's the politics that the PPP is engaged in this country. Those big bags of ration is to keep the communities where they get their support from dependent on them. So they will do everything to keep them there. Likewise, when they go into certain black communities and they reach out to certain black residents and community activists, they entice them with the same mentality. I know you want to appear to be living better than the rest of your residents, your community. I know you want to have privileges. We will provide those privileges to you. But in exchange, this is what we expect of you. So here, to show goodwill, we will give you a $3 million contract to fix the ball ground. Southern fence. Just prop it up. You do it however you want, man. We just want to put some money in your pocket. And so you take the bait. And despite the fact that you do shoddy work, you get paid. And so it's nice time. Them boys taking care of we. We got to look out for them boys. And then they come and they pat you on the back and they say, hey, you did a good job. And all these youngsters around you, I want you to get some money so that they can get some money so we can provide jobs to them. Let's do the eastern fence of the ball ground. But this time I want you to take out all of the zinc sheets. Break down the timber structure. And put chain link there that is half the height of what was there before in zinc. And you will get some of the boys in the village and so on to work, and they will get money. So we will spread the joy. But what they didn't tell you is that we are using you to help to destroy your community asset. I hear they got 2 tournaments, football tournaments, Kashif and Shanghai and somebody else. Futsal and football. I didn't hear any of those games listed for the Buxton ground. Are you surprised? No, I'm not. Usually, I think Christmas Day they would have come to Buxton ground. I'm not surprised because it doesn't have the infrastructure anymore to support such a venture. But they came like the horse of Troy, the Trojan horse, And the enemies were within there. And they use those in your communities to destroy that asset. Because they make them dependent on them. And they want to make the community as a whole dependent on them. Give them little sweeteners and they will keep coming. You think the plan is stuck there? The plan is not stuck there. The PPP has a set of conniving people. They have a set of conniving people. I understand a very dangerous man, at least in a period not so long ago, visited Buxton not so long ago. Many of us have to ask, what is the reason for this visit, or what was the reason for this visit? And some people have to start thinking back to the past, when Buxton was a battleground. So moves are visible that will suggest that something is afoot. The PPP is making moves to unsettle Buxton, to control Buxton in a way it has never been able to. And how do you do that? There's something that's called conditioning. And while I'm talking about Buxton, I want you to look at all the other black communities like Mocha and Agricola and so on, and our boys Tongue and Tiger Bay and Sophia, and see if you're seeing these moves taking place. Yes, I hint to Benny, but Mekwashi, but take notice. Just as how they are going to communities that support and enable them to give them these gifts, to keep them enticed. They are using those that look like you to go into communities that house people looking like you to deliver gifts, to entice them. To not necessarily join them, but to look out for them. You understand that? You know, we have a saying, to get to the man, you gotta come through me. And in communities like Agricola and Mocha and Buxton and our boys Tongue and so on, to get to the done, you gotta go through the community. Y'all follow me? To get to the done, you gotta go through the community. Because the done operates like the wise prince. Give them sweeteners. And so they feel indebted. Hey, that man is a good man. Because of the man there, I could now operate a small business for Christmas Day even, or maybe for the holiday season even. I could eat the food. And so if the man is not in existence, if that man is not allowed to operate, if that man gets removed from the community, I can't eat the food. And so if I know, for example, the authorities coming for the man, I got shine the man, hey, that man around the corner coming. The man or the woman. That man coming, they wrong the corner coming. And some make heights. We're going to hamburg them a little bit so they can't get to you. You make cakes. That is what the enablers do. That is what the business community is doing for the PPP. That is what some quote-unquote activist residents are doing for the PPP and their goons. But are we recognizing it? No. We are more focused on proving we got a brighter curtain. We are brighter than you own. We're going to get a brighter Christmas than you. Right? Individualism as against looking out for the community. We need to refocus. We need to get back to the drawing boards and become communities again, closely knit communities again. One for all and all for one. We can move forward like that. We can move forward like that. And I want to encourage us black folks to recognize that we can move forward like that. The neighbor will be minding them 4 pigs of the last year because they're looking for catch a raise in Christmas, and they slaughtered them, go and buy your pork there. You don't need pork from Rosignol Butchery. Or, what we call this place, Bounty. Or, you know the places that sell meat and so on around. You don't need to go there. You can get pork in your community. Linden in Buxton is at the junction of Line Top and what we call Joy Street. The middle street between Milwaukee and Company with Buxton. Fresh beef and pork. Go there and buy your beef and pork. What you want to do looking for beef and pork? And Lusignan Market, Annandale Market, Monreport Market, Border Market. You know a lot of those people who sell beef and pork, they come into your Buxtonian community and buy live animals and go and slaughter it and sell it back to you at a higher price. Keep your money home. When you develop your community, when you think inclusively, you will see growth in your community. Let me give you this example. A lot of folks take their money out of their communities. I'm using Buxton again. A lot of folks will leave business places in Buxton and go to Annandale and Lusignan and Chaspia and all over the place and spend their money. But when it comes to an event that needs sponsorship, they come to the Buxtonian business people and say, we got this event, could you sponsor us? Well, how are we going to sponsor you? You haven't supported the growth and development of our business. How can we sponsor you? Our business is not financially strong because you have not been supporting it. How can we sponsor you? Go to Annandale, Lusignan, Chaspia, Monreport, Border Market, where you've been spending your money, and ask them for sponsorship. And they will tell you, nah, we can't make dough. Because why? At Annandale, Chaspia, Monreport, Lusignan, those business people are looking out for their community. You have enabled them to look out for their community. And so they can do that. But you have not enabled your business people in your community to look out for your community. Right? I get y'all a laugh. This morning is free talk. I'm going to get y'all a laugh. But I know there's a lot of education in what I'm saying. So don't think I'm talking loose. Every morning I just got to deal with the raw, direct politics. Politics is in everything. The other day I went to a particular store. Black people don't own a hardware store. Not on the East Coast for sure. I don't know of any on the East Coast. So sometimes they just can't help going to certain places. So here I am in this hardware store on the East Coast. One to the west. Lest you believe it is the two to the east. One to the west. And I'm buying some stuff. A black brother walked in with a sheet, a donation sheet. And he went up to the counter attendant and said, well, you know, we had this football tournament coming up in Buxton and so on. And I come for a little donation. The boss is normally support me and things. The boss said, I'm ready, you know. And basically, in short, he was rebuffed. He didn't get anything. So he turned to me and he said, brother, I asked him for support for this tournament and thing. So I looked at him and said, football tournament? COVID is real. And I turned back to my business. Come again. I said, buddy, you what you say? Support football tournament in this time of COVID? Nah, you can't be serious. The man walk out the store. He ain't cost the your man, you know. He goes in your man. You know what he said? I don't like dealing with so black people. I don't like dealing with so black people, you know. The man is always. The people you go and spend your money at. They turn you down. The people you don't spend your money at, they turn you down because they ain't got. But you cost them out. That is what we do in our communities. And it's an attitude that has to be changed. It's an attitude that has to be changed. When last, for example, we use the local seamstress or tailor. When is the last time we used a local seamstress or tailor? I can tell you, because of a project I was involved in, there are several youngsters who were trained as tailors and seamstresses in garment construction in the BUXTONIAN community. I remember a particular young lady down the Friendship Road, Denisha, who took a stipend and bought a machine, a sewing machine, and started offering the services in our community in the block that she lived to start with. And there are lots of other young persons with the same skill in the community because of that program. You know one of the things Denisha told me? Sir, them people just don't like pay. They don't want to pay when you do anything for them. And one of the things she's talking about, young men and women will leave Buxton and go to Annandale to tighten a pants, to alter a shirt, to pull in a skirt, and they will pay. Straight off the bat, they will pay. They will even pay before the work is completed. But this is a young lady in the same neighborhood with them, looking like them, capable of, and is offering the same services, but they don't want to pay her. She must do it free because they know her. Right? That's an issue in our community. We need to address that. We need to address that. And so my encouragement for this season is, let us look inward. Look inward. Don't go to Regent Street and spend. Don't spend with the enablers. Look inward and enable yourself. Enable your community. Enable your neighbors. Because when you house and fight, them same neighbors got to put them out. Nobody ain't coming from outside to help you. Good? Let's talk now nationally. That is about individual communities, but individual communities will come together to make a nation. Let's talk nationally. They said to whom much is given, much is expected. To whom much is given, much is expected. And a lot has been given to the joint services. Yesterday I saw it emblazoned. Government has kept its promise to return 1 month tax-free salary bonus to joint services. Y'all notice? Y'all saw that headline? Yes, it is out there. But what they didn't tell you is they got strings attached. They got strings attached. Because by last night the headline said, Army and police to clean up Georgetown. Army and police to clean up Georgetown. In other words, let us entice you. Let us sweeten you. Here is your 1 month bonus that we promised you. Tax-free. But in exchange for that, you, professional law enforcement officers, will go and clean the city of the garbage, which was allowed to build up because we, who are in government, have refused to give resources to the mayor and town council to execute their plans and programs. We've refused to pay them our fair share of taxes. We've refused to give them their subvention. And so they cannot deliver. We've refused to reevaluate the value of properties so that they can collect their fair share of taxes. And so that they can have enough financing to execute their plans and programs for development and maintenance of the city. We as government have done that. And so we have caused them to fail to deliver their services. And so that failure has resulted in garbage pile up. Right? Garbage pile up, and clogged drains and so on. And we still are not going to give them the resources. But what we will do is you, professional law enforcement officers, ranks of the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana Defense Force, we will give you 1 month bonus salary, tax-free. But in exchange, you're going to go and clean the garbage. You've suddenly been made environmental technicians. Big word. You suddenly are uniformed garbage collectors. Not disrespect to the garbage collectors. Everybody has a role and function in society. But here it is. Here it is. Your professionalism is coming under attack. You are being abused. You're being taken advantage of. Because we sweeten you. We promise you the sweet. We're going to give you a month free bonus, tax-free bonus salary. You get it. But go and clean the garbage. We're going to humiliate you in exchange for it. Go clean garbage. You know why you must go clean garbage? Because in the words of one of the supporters on Facebook, I just sit down the whole year, especially in the army, and I don't do nothing. I just get free money all year. And so you get free money at the end of the year, you get free money all year, go clean garbage, go work for the money. That's the mentality of the PPP. They have always argued that the Ghanaian Defense Force ranks don't do anything in this country, they don't do anything for this country. And the majority black people, so once that black people sit down there and eat food from taxpayer money, and wear clothes from taxpayer money, and drive vehicle all over the place from taxpayer money, and they're not doing nothing. And in that same mentality, an Indian-dominated government has taken action now to ensure that they do something for this money that they're trying. And you go clean garbage. And so congratulations to my military friends and police friends. Not only are you enablers of the PPP, not only are you supporting and protecting the PPP as they continue to abuse the citizens, but now you are lying down and allowing them to walk on your backs for a month's salary. But the Gaisuko workers have received tax-free, labor-free grants of at least $250,000. Note I say at least. At least $250,000 for doing nothing. And they weren't asked to join and clean up garbage. They weren't asked to clean up garbage. But you, the professional women and men of the military, are asked to clean up garbage. I await your response. I'm sure I know what it would be. You're going to pull your tails between your legs and you're going to go and clean garbage. I know that. But I wait to see your response, not holding my breath. Because I know from the leadership right down to the lowest rank in the army, all they are spineless. Likewise the police. None of you will stand up and say, hey, don't take your damn ice and pass me. Don't take your ice and pass me. You could shove the bonus when the monkey shove the nuts. If that bonus is tied to us doing this. But even if you give us the bonus, we ain't garbage collectors. We ain't collecting no garbage. And if you want to play hardball, we can play hardball. And in this instance, playing hardball, we got dumb tools. Our tools, guns, batons, sirens, we got dumb tools. We ain't gonna do any policing for the holiday season. We ain't supporting no COVID task force for the holiday season. Y'all call them Gaisuko workers to do it. That's how you play hardball. But like I said, I'm not holding my breath. Because we got a spineless lot in the Guyana Police Force and in the Guyana Defense Force. Unfortunately, both of those two organizations are led by black people. So you see black faces as their representatives. And those black faces are being rubbed in the garbage right now. But they like it. Give up your dignity in exchange for 1 month bonus salary. Hey, we get it by double or nothing. That is the talk in the army. I always remember it. Double or nothing, boy. We get it. You get double or nothing. You're going to finish by January month 10. But you lose your dignity. That is not so easy to reclaim. It is now 5 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. The lines are open. 6225933 is the number to call. Disrespect of a government and installed cabal to its professionals. Disrespect of the installed cabal to its citizens. Disrespect to the nation, the citizens of this country. But nobody is doing anything about it. Because I guess it's Christmas. And we want double or nothing. Well, let me tell you all something. Your double is equivalent to nothing. Nothing is what your double is equivalent to. By January, you broke again. And you're back to the same low salary that they've been paying you. There will be no 1 month bonus tax-free in January, nor February, nor March, nor for the rest of 2022. You will continue to do your same jobs, maybe with a little added here and a little added there in terms of tasks, but you'll continue to get your same low pay. While the haves continue to increase what they have, and you who have not are placed in a worse situation. But when I see people in army uniform now, I gotta look around and see where the garbage collection vehicle is. And I'm very serious. Right? Lines are open. 6225933. You tune to the Buxtonian Morning Time. I received a call from my good friend Rhonda last night. And she was telling me that the First Lady is building a resort. Have you ever heard that? I didn't know this First Lady is building a resort. But what is more concerning is that they've been reckless and lawless. Because they left truckloads upon truckloads of sand encumbering the road. And a motorist crashed into a pile of the sand, damaged his vehicle, perhaps injured himself, and up until now there is no recompense. As a matter of fact, they clean up the sand quickly. The police dilly-dally, the police didn't come when they were called and so on, as usual. Because they know it's who sand, they know it's who resort. They're frightened to do their jobs. And so they gave them time to clear it out. And it has been cleared out. And so the argument now is whether or not there was really sand there that this motorist crashed into. You see this country? And these installed people in government, they are wicked set. Y'all remember when Ashley Singh had the accident when he was drunk as a fish? And he left the scene. They got two laws in this country just as how they got two countries or two sets of citizens. One for poor people, the other one for them wicked people in government. and their friends. Calling live, good morning.
Good morning, Karaki. Good morning. Karaki, you were talking about those people who, the young lady with the sewing. A lot of people like you to give them things, but they do not want to pay for things. They like freeness. And that needs to change so we could change the younger people mindset now that it's coming up and let them know once you see your friend or your cousin is doing something, you have to like support them, help them. You gotta buy from them. You gotta help them if they're doing hair instead of going to somebody else to do your hair. Support them because I remember when I used to do things. A lot of my mom friends used to let me do their hair, or I will cook my special food and they will buy from me. This is what we have to train these young people to do. Because the older ones, they done gone bad already. So, but you have to insist in the younger ones that's coming up now. You know, that's what we got to do. Help the younger ones. And that's the reason why I see that. And sometimes when I'm there, I try to explain to them and let them know that people is not going to give you all the time when you're not trying to help yourself. You have to. But I guess that's where it is. And I think, you know, maybe parents need to change their mindset and let them know, you know, they have to do better than that. Not, you know, try and don't go to other people. When you have people right there that can do the same thing for you, support. It is important. Kadaki, have a blessed day.
Thank you, caller. Lines remain open 6225933. Let's talk the thing. Ramshire rubbish collectors. Olaro, environmental ministers, environmental engineers, sanitation engineers, sanitation workers in army uniforms. Disrespect. Many of you got your subjects and you became cadet officers and so on. To go and clean garbage. Let the state do what the state is expected to do. Let the politicians do what they were hired to do. Respect the laws. Respect the policies. Pay city council the taxes that the government owes. Allow for a re-evaluation, what they call ratings, of ratings in the city, so that these big businesses which are paying domestic rates can now pay their commercial rates. Because they're responsible for generating a whole lot of the garbage around the city. But because they have friends and cronies in the government and they're enablers of friends and cronies in the cabal is protecting them by not allowing city council to re-evaluate and so to change the tax regime. They're not allowing it.
Morning.
But the soldiers and police must go and clean the garbage. Call it live, good morning.
Yeah, morning. Morning to you.
Please turn on your device.
Season greetings.
The background.
Morning to you and season greetings to you and all thy citizens of this country. My contribution this morning is one thing. I keep saying from day one, we should not have no Christmas in this country because the disrespectfulness for the installed government going on with, we should not have no Christmas in this country. Shut the tongue down. Now that the Congress done for the PNC, I hope you listen to this program this morning. Organize and educate yourself. Be educated enough to know that what we're going on right now is a racial discriminated thing. Let me shut the tongue down. Let me don't got no Christmas. Let me just treat them. Let no way don't got no business. Let the tongue just shut down. Just shut the tongue down. And next year we take it up from a different level. You understand me? Because number one, we want to know what's going on with with the local government election, we're going out with the new voters list. We want to know we're going out with this installed CEO with a put in G-Com there. We want Cladison removed. You understand me? We petition. 99 is going to be hard. Shut the tongue down. That's all I want. Let nothing and let others know. Let we shut down, charge tongue. Let we don't got no Christmas. When you walk, when you go down tongue, but for a day, if you see vehicles down Regent Street or you see the place congested, shut down the tongue. When we shut down the tongue, we can start getting results because they don't know that by now we prepare for stand up against them. You understand me? This installed government. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. You know the cabal is currently going to, is working, well, not working, they already got the bill to take to Parliament to allow for organ harvesting in Guyana. Y'all know that? If y'all didn't know now, you know. They want to harvest organs in Guyana. If you don't know, now you know. People, pay attention to what's happening in this country. Stay woke. Because the long and short of it is this wicked cabal is jumping to the tune of the handlers in exchange for getting to do what they like. Right? In exchange for getting to do what they like. How do I explain that? You see, it's about interest. I will serve your interest if you allow me to have my way at the same time. Similar situation with the Phantom Squad. Right? I will allow you, Phantoms, to deal with your drugs and murder and trafficking in persons or whatever else you do illegally. I will give you clear passage. But in exchange, you will perform political assassinations for me. You will be my enforcers, my strong men, when I want any dirty deed done on the political scene. And that is what has been happening in this country. Right? That is what has been happening. But back to this story. Any of you are aware that the First Lady is building a resort on the west side? Ali wasn't president, was Minister of Housing, maybe for just a year. When he acquired a multi-million dollar, multi-billion dollar property on the west side and turned it into some, what do you call it, a beachfront property or something. Big fancy place with both pool house, bigger than many of your homes. Now Ali is president for just about 16 months. And his wife, I understand, is building resort. How about that? Y'all know what y'all taxpayers' money doing? Y'all need to pay attention. Stay woke. Voice note.
They're supposed to got no parliament and all in comfort. This country is supposed to be running as business as usual. They're supposed to know that when we have an issue, and they're supposed to got no parliament and all in comfort. This country is supposed to be. They're supposed to got no parliament and all in comfort. This country is supposed to be running as business as usual. They're supposed to know that when we have an issue, and let the world see and know that when we have an issue, when we shut down the tongue, the world will understand that well, Guyanese have issues. They ain't got Christmas. Instead of Christmas, we got issues. That is what we're having right now.
Well, unless Guyanese stand up, Guyanese ain't gonna say we got nothing except Christmas. Right? I have a video to show you They are out and they are out and about, ready to give Harvey Norton a hard time. I've seen 2 videos over the last 12 hours or so attacking Norton. Right? Attacking Norton. I want to share them with you so you can be aware of what is happening. See, like I usually say, this is the first video.
The call on the people of Georgetown to let loose the dogs of war.
We're going to target businesses. We're going to disrupt their business.
In whatever way you can undermine this government.
This is the type of freedom of speech Harman, Norton, and the PNC them talking about. This is their type of freedom of speech. This one here calling for war. He want right off people's vehicle, but he ain't coming for do it. He's sitting comfortably in the basement abroad, calling for you to do it. When you go and do it and involve yourself, this one here calling for undermine the government. He want people boycott people business and make bad at people, you understand? And divide this country, but he's sitting comfortably abroad, collecting fat salary and everything. And these 2 guys should be locked away in jail, man. They're a waste of society.
You hear the attack? These 2 guys are a waste of society. They should be locked away in jail for encouraging the people to deal with this cabal in the way they should be dealt with. Good? They don't want to put their own faces to it, so they use what? Caricature. Cartoon characters.
The call on the people of Georgetown to let loose the dogs of war.
We're going to target businesses. We're going to disrupt their business.
In whatever way you can undermine this government.
This is the type of freedom of speech Harman, Norton, and the PNC them talking about. This is their type of freedom of speech. This one here calling for war. He want right off people's vehicle, but he ain't coming for do it. He's sitting comfortably in the basement abroad, calling for you to do it. When you go and do it and involve yourself, this one here calling for undermine the government. He want people boycott people business and make bad at people, you understand? And divide this country, but he's sitting comfortably abroad, collecting fat salary and everything. And these 2 guys should be locked away in jail, man. They're a waste of society.
That's what I got for. They hide and attack. They're not open. They can't come frontally and say, well, this is our position. They got to duck and hide to present their position. As I say, if you're man enough, you gotta show your face.
The PNC-APNU plus AFC is relentless in its campaign of terror and intimidation. GCAM Chairwoman Claudette Singh is its latest target. Aubrey Norton recently made this threat against her.
She was trusted with a job to operate independently. She has failed. And when people fail us, we must do everything to see their backs.
Norton's threat isn't an isolated incident.
In whatever way you can undermine this government.
Barby's Bridge. Nobody in blocked that bridge yet.
If the PPP don't go, Georgetown gonna burn down. Georgetown, they burn down.
Norton was one of the intellectual authors of the PNC More Fire, Slow Fire campaign of arson and terror in 1997. Despite attempts to repackage himself, Aubrey Norton has not changed.
Call it live, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Kadaki. Good morning, all the followers and viewers. I wanted to say about a cartoon character. All right? They just come and show and talk all kind of things and put out them thing out there. All right? But when we black people start to do things, the whole of them against us. You understand? When you put a character showing that when they was killing all the black people in 2002 and all them kind of thing, and killing black people, Phantom Squad, killing people, got just chamber for kill black people, they ain't saying them thing. But soon as these men go up on the thing and try to elevate black people, it's a problem with them always calling and talking all kind of thing and put hiding characters and do all kind of thing and believe black people is stupid. This is not a long time. Now you have social media, you have thing now, could go up on your phone and make a thing and everybody shop and do what they got to do. So I don't know what they're talking about. Just with the election petition and the other one talk about the judge because they don't rule against their favor. You understand me? So these are how these people stay. So what they're doing now, they're just talking things to people. There's a lot of distraction going on with them. That's why this one will come and talk this, then next week the next one will come and talk something else and distract people. But we ain't going for no distraction. You understand, Mr. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I want to draw to your attention this. In both of those videos, they try to paint the leaders of our struggle as violent. Talk about arson and terror. Right? Arson and terror. Let's talk about arson and terror and violence. 1997, Aubrey Norton and the PNC and Guyanese had to do what Guyanese had to do to bring the PPP to the table. Call it live, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Kadaki. Good morning, everyone in the diaspora. Very quickly, I'd like to say congratulations to Mr. We support him 1,000%. However, that support doesn't come much. It means that Bobby Norton has to produce. Can you hear me? Bobby Norton has to produce. We want to know how long diplomacy will work. So we're watching to see how long diplomacy will be a strategy for Mr. Norton. We're seeing the Supreme Appeals Court. The appeals courts are willing to hear petition 99. So that is a good thing. I hope Mr. Norton is ready to galvanize the grassroots to support this on petition 99. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Help you.
Yes. Let's talk about arson and terror. The first thing I like to do is paint black people as violent. I remember an Indian caller in the early days of this program calling and talking to me and telling me, Mr. Amsterdam, I would like to go and join the protests at the Square of the Revolution. But they tell me if I go as an Indian, I'm going to get raped and beaten. In other words, they were driving fear into that individual. That's what the Indians do. Indian leaders do in the communities, in the Indian communities. Not only do they drive fear into the residents, but anyone who dares to step out of line gets dealt with condignly. Again, only because of the secretive nature of Indian communities, or only because they are easily intimidated by the bullies, you wouldn't hear some of the stories. Men beaten to within inches of their lives because they dare to support or make known their support for a different political party other than the PPP. Women raped to prove a point because they dare to support another political party other than the PPP. That's terror. That's terror. I've had conversation with young Indians who said to me, Mr. Amsterdam, in 2011 and 2015, I supported the APNU, but I dare not make it known or my relatives will put me out. The community will target and torment us. That's terror. Those who know and pay attention will know that the PPP keeps a lot of Indo-Guyanese in their camp, in compliance, through terrorism. That's terror. PNC don't terrorize anybody to stay in its ranks. Look at how many PNC people have crossed the floor over the years. Coalition people and so on. Look at that. But they're trying to paint Aubrey and other black leaders as terrorists. They're quoting 1997 with Aubrey leading the More Fire, Slow Fire campaign. The Slow Fire, More Fire campaign was under Desmond Hite. Aubrey Norton was the General Secretary. According to Hite, Aubrey was a screecher. Hite and Aubrey were creatures of the people, and the people demanded justice for their votes. And the people were willing to take the streets in their numbers, and that they did. And the leaders had to step up. And that was the kind of protest that the PPP knows and responds to. That was the kind of protest it took to bring them to the table. Have you seen a willingness of the PPP to come to the table through diplomacy? No. And so if it takes, quote unquote, terroristic tactics according to the PPP to bring them to the table, I endorse it. And we all must endorse it. I'm reminded by Yonat here, when the Azizes, I think they're Aziz, from Borbis, painted their butcher shop in the color of the coalition leading up to the last election, they burnt it to the ground. That is terrorism. PPP, terrorism. Arson, that was arson. And I got a long list of arsons under the PPP. They burned down the Ministry of Housing when it was on Homestretch Avenue. And you know the lots of other buildings that they burnt to cover their tracks. Remember when the Ministry of Health was burnt? They got a long list of arson. In the PNC era, they used to light rats' tails and lose them in the cane fields to destroy the cane and affect Gaisuko's production. That was arson and terror. They used to throw big boulders in the grinders at Gaisuko to damage it so that production would be affected. Arson and terror, I'll talk about with the PPP. Under the Granger administration over the west side, one of the operatives threw water in the fuel tank of one of the David Grease school buses to stop it from operating. That is terror. That is arson. That is sabotage. That is undermining. Call it what you want. But the PPP has utilized those topics, those tactics. Jagdiot Babu Jan tell them, when the PNC ministers come, chase them out. Chase them out. That was an instruction for terrorism. You think it was just chase them out by one? Here you go. When there was that big conference at Pegasus that Granger was attending, when they got up with placards in the conference, and picketed in the conference, an international conference, what do you call that? At the same conference, Karen Cummings was then the acting foreign affairs minister, or was foreign affairs minister. At the instruction of Ali, in the presence of Nandalal and other leaders, seniors of the party, they and their followers rocked the vehicle. Ali said, turn it over. Turn it over! Had no care and concern for a minister of government, a black minister of government, a woman, a black woman, and her safety in that vehicle. And you talking about terrorism and arson and undermining the government? It is a pity none of them were made to pay for those actions. But at least we can remind them of them. At least they can be reminded. And so if our leaders can be deemed terrorists, we can say that we have the equivalent in the PPP. They too are terrorists. Let me talk about terrorism perpetrated by political actors in this country. Y'all remember Donna McKinnon? She was shot on that empty piece of land at the junction of Robb Street and Wellington, opposite Sharma. And opposite, that's the American store, I think. Immediately east of the PPP headquarters, Freedom House. Y'all remember Donna McKinnon? She was murdered on that plot of land. Where did the bullet come from that murdered her? In Freedom House. Somewhere around the back stair of Freedom House, or a back window somewhere in the back of Freedom House there. Those who saw said it was a rifleman. Terrorism y'all talking about, and murder. Terrorism was when Ganga Prasad, is that his name? Ask CN Sharma. Ask CN Sharma. Of how many occasions Ganga Prasad, who is now minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, ask Sharma how many occasions he was beaten up by that bully. Ask them. Terrorism and bullyism. Ask Sharma that story. Every time Sharma went in the Indo-Guyanese community, I like their plight. Ganga Prasad turned up and beat him up. Every time. Terrorism. The same incident that saw Mark Benschop go into prison on a trumped-up charge of treason. You remember that incident? It was a protest led by Bino from Linden. Up until now, there are many of us who suspect that was a setup. Y'all remember how they slaughter? How they slaughter protesters at the office of the president? That was terrorism. Because they hope to drive the people into subjection by terroring them, making examples of those who dare to protest and hold the lines of battle against us. Let's make an example of them. We will murder them. Remember the Linden trio? Boye and the others? Who dare them to challenge this edict about increasing electricity rates without consultation? Who dare them to block the bridge? We will make an example of them, murder them. That's terrorism. So the PPP has a long list of terroristic activities against the citizens of this country. The operatives, the agents, the supporters are also known for terrorizing people in the communities. Remember Lozignan? The one with the gun in the street? After the March 2nd election? Remember how they bashed in the vehicle? Windshield and damaged other parts of the vehicle driven by the nurse? Intimidated, harassed that black sister? Frontline worker? Did you ever hear an apology or condemnation of those actions from the PPP to their supporters? No. Because the PPP thrives on terrorism. They thrive on bullyism. So don't be fooled. But they're doing this, they're labeling Dr. Hines and Rickford Burke and Aubrey Norton. Like I said in an earlier program this week, black leaders don't like to be called racist. They don't want to be called terrorists also. And so, hey, Aubrey Norton, who is a more stand-up guy, who is likely to give us more problem than Joe Harmon, has won the Congress. He's the new leader of the PNC. Let us not give him room. Let us immediately attack his character. Let us immediately attack his style. Let us try to cower him. Let us make him soft before he even settles in the job, so that before he can catch himself to give us hell, we will force him into a corner by calling him a terrorist. That's the plan. Right? They usually say the best defense is offense. And so let us be offensive about this. And attack him before he gets to attack us. Put him on the defense before he can get onto the offensive. And so that's the plan. But we are seeing through it. We know, we understand what's happening. And so citizens of this country must pay attention to what's happening. Call black leaders racist, they're going to back off. Call them terrorists, they're going to back off. But we are woke now, so I don't think it will work. You got to come with a different strategy. Come with a different strategy. Word on the street is that the murder of Boston in his bed was sanctioned by the fat guy. $250 million involved. Isn't that terrorism? Huh? Isn't that terrorism? The black brother that was murdered at Bad Settlement, I think he was riding home on his motorcycle during the elections time. The Henry boys murdered allegedly by a known PPP financer. To date, the case has not been solved, despite the fat guy saying we will leave no stone unturned. Right? Yes, correction. It was Mala Prasad who was doing the beating, not Ganga Prasad. Right? But if you ask me, Alan Prasad one, including, right? Wasn't that terrorism? Isn't that terrorism? Wasn't it terroristic when the PPP stormed GCOM's operational office in Georgetown, Ashman's building, and attempted to kick in the door of the office where Claudette Singh was? Go look for that video, you're going to hear what they say. Kick down the door. And you know who was involved in that kicking down of the door? Inspector Prem Narayan. Is that his name? PPP goon in the police force that is alleged to have been the shooter of that young man in, was that Craig or on the East Bank? And they claim he had stolen articles in the vehicle. Up to now, they can't find anything that was stolen. And he had a gun, but they could only find one spent shell. And those acts of terrorism, I can tell you for a fact that that particular shooting had political connotations. Because that young man was an AP and UFC supporter. Openly, he supported the AP and UFC. And maybe he did or said things that offended some people in the PPP during the campaign. And so they had it out for him. So, let's talk terrorism. Let's talk arson. The DPP office that was destroyed recently by fire, the Breakdown police station that was destroyed by fire, it's the first time in the history of this country I've seen a fire scene cleaned up before the embers were out. The fire was cleaned up, the scene of the fire was cleaned out before the fire itself was out. Why? What were they trying to cover up? Arson. Not the type that you create with a piece of wire and a piece of sponge, but the type that was planned in back offices in government and executed by the lieutenants in these agencies. Y'all don't fool yourselves. Before the declaration of the 2020 elections results and the installation of the PPP, there were fires that were starting around this country. Check and see how many quote-unquote little fires were set. GCOM office, Ministry of Presidency Training Division, there was a fire in Linden. There were several fires that were being set. The PPP was signaling its willingness to destroy this country and state assets by fire if they didn't have their way. That's their attitude. They have a scorched the earth attitude and policy. If it's not we, it's nobody else. So Rickford Burke and Mark Benchclub and David Hines, they're not the arsonists. They're not the terrorists. You gotta check Freedom House to them. Check Freedom House to them. It's now 8 hours 49. We can take a couple more calls. Voice note.
Good morning, Kadaki. Season greetings to you and the KAMS family. I don't care if this sounds racist, but terror and violence are in the DNA of Indians. I read an article which said, compared to other countries, India carry out more terrorist acts against their people. If Indians can kill their own family, killing others to achieve their racist end will not be difficult. After all, Jagdeo and his cabal are Indians squatting in Guyana, and they have the same mindset of their ancestors, and they show it. They are the terrorists and are given the impression that our folks are, but people are smarter than what they think. At the same time, however, whenever they put their propaganda out there, we must continue to debunk them. Have a happy Christmas.
Thank you, caller. (6225933) is the number to call. Voice note.
Good morning, Mr. Kadaki. I need Mr. Aubrey Norton to open his eyes and be very careful right now. Be very careful with these people. They're wicked and vindictive. So you need to up your game. You need to up your game because they're going to try anything right now for Safuni. Anything right now they're going to for Safuni. So no eating, no drinking of nothing. You got to be very careful right now. Very aware you have to be. You have to be on the A game right now. Because they're coming out right now for Patty Head and for Safuni. So you need to up your game and get more serious now. More serious than ever. This is not no time for gimmicks right now. It's time for Mr. Aubrey Norton to open your eyes. And I hope you're listening. Open your eyes, Mr. Norton, and be very careful.
Thank you for that voice note. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call. Tomorrow is Friday. It's Christmas Eve. I'm proposing we do a 10 o'clock in the night show, boy. We'll have our regular day show from 6 in the morning. And then we will do the Christmas postcard, Christmas magazine show from 10. So we're going to break into Christmas morning on KAMSTV. If you're good for that, just give me a thumbs up. Let's do that. Right? Friday night. So we're going to have two shows tomorrow. Regular show in the morning, BUXTONIAN morning time. And then we're going to have a Christmas showcase. And that should be interesting because I'm going to be inviting you by Zoom to sing carols and send greetings and so on. If you want to come in by Zoom, we ain't taking your greetings. We want to see your face while you're singing. How about that? So tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, we're going to have a greetings show going into Christmas morning, and you're expected to sing some carols and send some greetings and share some traditions and so on. Tell us how you like your black cake or how you like your pepper pot. How do you prepare these kind of things and so on and so forth, right? Good. So we'll talk about that tomorrow night. But in the meantime, we are tuned to KAMSTV coming to you live from Sideline and Buxton on Facebook. And you're listening to the Buxtonian Morning Time. Call you live, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Kadaki. Listen me. These people understand that Aubrey is not like he will be able to mobilize the people faster than Armand. Aubrey's not going to write letter. What he's going to do, he's going to touch base with the grassroots people. The grassroots people will understand that, listen, you got to come out and you got to put boots on the ground, because with the PPP, they're not going to stop. And black people need to start stopping black people. Simple as that. Because what we need to do is understand that we are the biggest spending power when it comes to Guyana. So we gotta stop black, stay black. Because that's the only way that you're gonna put the pressure on them. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Voice note.
Hate is the poison of the fearful.
Well, I just received a message here, most likely from an army rank. And it says, the president announced 1 month bonus for joint services. But the GDF chief and hierarchy, they did it with the police, they did it with the teachers earlier. And they're doing it with the army now. The GDF chief and hierarchy decided that those who have taken only 1 dose or no dose of the vaccine will not get it. So if you are unvaccinated or you only have 1 dose of the vaccine, and your rank of the Guyana Defense Force, and most likely the police force, you ain't got nothing to draw down. They ain't giving you nothing. But like the individual is saying, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated will be expected to clean the garbage. I guess we like it so. We like it. I gotta look for that song.
Hey, bless good morning to you, Kadaki. Kadaki, good morning. I would like you to play that video that the APNU made about the PPP with the murders that they committed under Jack Dio's rule for so many years. Could you play it for the rest, at least for 2 weeks straight?
Thank you, caller. Voice note for the reminder of that video. The PPP's terrorism. I will have to look for it. I'm sure I have it someplace. But I'll have to look for it so we can refresh your memories. 6225933 is the number to call. You tune to the Buxtonian Morning Time. I am about to leave you. And so I bid you have a good day. Have a safe day. Remain vigilant. And consider the lesser fortunate among you as you make your Christmas preparations. But importantly, keep your monies in your communities and don't go spending it with the enablers of the PPP. Cable time for you. This one is called Suffering.
Everyone though they survive and they all would you invite them for a plate of meal in your home, and if they come to your bank, would you give them a loan? See them catching at the straw like them out for Jonah. Would you give them a smile or would you give them a frown? Or would you just stand there and watch them going down? Would you do something for them to let the table turn around? Target from me heart and me profound. Again, got to do something before it's too late. Got to do something and do something great. Get your act together and step up to the plate. And you'll Rastafari straight again. Got to do something before it's too late. Got to do something and do something great. Get your act together and step up to the plate and defend the human race. Make me tell you this. Should I know say Rastafari indigenous? Send me out a college education, some saving up. Tell the farmer man, no giving up. Go until the silent plant keep digging up. Instill the morals, keep the youths them living up. Can't employ if you not develop. People say them need more money, not them envelope. No care of them and without them single up. Them suffering too long. Them suffering too long. Them suffering too long. The way you make it so hard, God and broad. You're pressuring them too long. You're suffering them too long. Them I feel it too long. Why you make it so hard? God and broad. I wanna them. Got to do something before it's too late. Got to do something and do something great. Get your act together and step up to the plate. And yell King Selassie I straight again. Got to do something and do something great. Gotta do something and do something straight. Get your act together and step up to the plate and defend the human race. Oh, them say poverty and crime it international and local. Can't stop my fire now, them can't take my vocal. As them get them vote, them get anti-social. Them eyes and my age, I know them warming global. So that system ya well it too awful. So me find out say Babylon not artful. Come and over make them know so we artful. Tell the people them you better start pull them so fucking too long. Them so fucking too long. So what them a gonna do now? When you make it so hard, you're damn glad. Them suffering too long. Pressuring the people them too long. Them a feel it too long. Why you make it so hard? You're damn glad. I want your name. Gotta do something before it's too late. Gotta do something and do something great. Get your act together and step up to the plate and defend the human race. Again, gotta do something before it's too late. Gotta do something and do something great. Get your act together and step up to the place and yell Rastafari straight. Alright then, they never fulfill only false promises. Till enough people lose them sanities. Enough of them go sell them soul through vanities. Help me set the best of policy. And it says, sell out the ghetto youth, them you know say wrong it is. Tell them to clean up the economical damages. Select a play that one you cause the number one it is. More fireman and blaze. Everyone do they survive when they're home? Would you invite them for a plate of meal? In your home, or if they come to your bank, then would you give them a loan? See them catching at the straw, like them out for John. Then would you give them a smile, or would you give them a frown? Or would you just stand there and watch them going down? Would you do something for them to make them table turn around? Now, son.
If Jah is by my side, I won't hide. No, I won't hide. Bum, 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 this a junior. Bum, 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 this a junior. Bum, 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 this a junior. Bum. If Jah is standing by my side, then why should I be afraid of a pestilence that crawleth by night? If Jah is standing by my side, then why should I be afraid of a pestilence that crawleth by night? Your best you try to harm me and I, aiming to kill, but I love you still, cause you are here to make promises fulfilled. It's your will. No weapon that form against me, desire shall not be. Divine protection shall set my soul free. Talk to me. Jah is standing by my side, then why should I be afraid of a pestilence that crawleth by night? If Jah is standing by my side, then why should I be afraid of a pestilence that crawleth by night? The gates of hell can never prevail. From I know Jah, he never fail. What you think I'm gonna do? Keep up now? No, no, not go bow. My foes attack and I just smile. They don't seem to understand my style. My confidence is so high, high. In a Baba Jah is standing by my side, then why should I be afraid of a pestilence that crawleth by night? If Jah is standing by my side, then why should I be afraid of a pestilence that crawleth by night? Higher, higher, we stepping higher. It's a ghetto people song, only them can sing this world. It's a song for the poor in space, in suffering. wise up, and temper your anger. Oh, it's a ghetto people song, only them can sing this. Oh, it's a song for